Hello and welcome. Tonight, Aliko Dangote raises concerns over sabotage in Nigeria's downstream oil sector as reps summon Dangote and NMDPRA chief ordering a ceasefire. President Tinubu praises late President Muhammadu Buhari as a model of discipline, integrity and public service during the launch of his official biography in Abuja. Federal government admits major revenue shortfalls in the 2024-2025 budgets, forcing nearly 70% of planned spending to roll over into 2026. And Nick Reiner, son of director Rob Reiner, arrested after the deaths of his parents, Rob and Michelle, in Los Angeles.
And on business, Nigeria's inflation falls for the 8th consecutive month to 14.45% in November.
And on sports news tonight, Super Eagles begin preparations for the Africa Cup of Nations as players arrive at camp for tomorrow's friendly match with Egypt in Cairo.
And from the nation's capital, Supreme Court of any state to prevent breakdown of law and order or descent into chaos.
We begin tonight in the oil and gas industry, a critical sector to Nigeria and Nigerians. As the president of Dangote Industries Limited, Aliko Dangote has once again criticized the Nigerian downstream oil sector regulator, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, calling for an investigation and prosecution of its chief executive officer, Farouk Ahmed, over alleged economic sabotage and undermining domestic refining in Nigeria. Mr. Aliko Dangote, who made this allegation while speaking with journalists at the Dangote refinery in the Bejuleki area of Lagos, also touched on other issues drawing back the oil and gas sector in the country.
Since the launch of the Dangote refinery and petrochemical plant in Bejuleki, Lagos, its owner, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, has been candid about the challenges of sustaining a $20 billion investment. Africa's richest man is now shedding light on key issues affecting Nigeria's energy sector, including alleged corruption within the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority and the struggle to make petrol affordable for ordinary Nigerians.
Malam Farouk has 4 of his children that he educated in Switzerland at the cost of $5 million for their secondary school education alone, not university. And I know that one of them just finished Harvard. So I want to now see what kind of system are we operating that, people are now busy destroying a country, taking money from the government. Because when you look at his income does not match paying this kind of fees. I think even if it's me paying $5 million for 6 years for my 4 children, the taxman has to look at my taxes. What you do is that you invite more people to invest. When you invite more people to invest, when you have a lot of this, then you can now start saying, okay, fine, no, you cannot have 80% share. You cannot have, then you can now say, no, okay, you regulate. But even if you are going to regulate, then what are you regulating? You don't use imports to checkmate domestic production because you are creating jobs elsewhere.
Dangote confirmed that the new gantry price of 699 naira per litre will take effect on Tuesday, December 16, 2025, promising that the price at the pump will not exceed 740 naira per litre.
Anybody who can buy 10 trucks, come and buy 10 trucks at 699. We are going to use whatever resources that we have to make sure that we crash the price down. We will get these sales. Maybe it will take us a week to 10 days. By the grace of God, within a week to 10 days, we will be able to deliver. We don't want to see, at least for this December, January, to sell petroleum product more than 740 naira. The US has been one of our major suppliers. That's why when somebody said that Trump is not happy with this refinery, I said, no, I'm sure Trump too. He will ask his intelligence people, tell him he's more than happy.
Despite these hurdles, Dangote assures Nigerians that the company will continue to work tirelessly to deliver benefits of domestic refining, ensuring the reductions in gantry prices are fully reflected at retail outlets nationwide.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives Joint Committee on Petroleum Resources has responded to those claims as it has now stepped in to halt the wave of tension in the Nigeria downstream petroleum sector following allegations and counterclaims involving the leadership of Dangote Refinery Group and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority by summoning both parties to present their grievances, allegations before the committee for immediate resolution. The committee has also ordered both parties to cease all media hostilities pending the outcome of its investigation, which it says will be swift and out in days. The downstream and midstream committees, led by Honorable Ikenga Ogochinyere and Honorable Henry Okoje, disclosed this after an emergency meeting of the committee convened in response to what they described as growing tension capable of undermining the fragile stability recently achieved in the sector. The lawmaker explains that only a clear understanding of the underlying problems will enable the National Assembly broker a lasting solution without fear or favor. The intervention is coming amid heightened public scrutiny of Nigeria's downstream petroleum industry, especially as expectations remain high around local refining capacity, regulatory clarity, and stable fuel supply. The federal government has admitted to significant revenue shortfalls in the implementation of the 2024 and 2025 budgets, a development that has raised concerns in the Senate over the sustainability of the fiscal planning ahead of the 2026 budget cycle. And this was disclosed during an interactive session between the Senate Committee on Finance and members of the President's Economic Management Team on the 2026 to 2028 MTEF FSP. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, told lawmakers that only about 30% of the 2025 budget had been fully funded, forcing the government to roll over nearly 70% of the spending framework into 2026. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Umezoke, reports.
Days after President Bola Tinubu submitted a correspondence to the upper chamber requesting approval for the 2026 to 2028 MTEF and fiscal strategy paper, the president's economic team appeared before the Senate Committee on Finance.
We will pay close attention to revenue projections, debt thresholds, deficit financing, and the effectiveness of proposed reforms.
In 2025, the estimate was 40 trillion naira. What we are going to get is roughly 10 trillion naira in terms of federal government's cash revenue. Likewise, for the 2025 capital budget, funding is available for 30% of that budget, with the plan, with the cooperation and the support of the National Assembly to roll over the 75%. Over the last 2 years have shown that the federal government estimates of revenue have been far in excess of what actually is collected. When we look at borrowing, we have roughly 152 trillion naira outstanding.
The lawmakers, who appeared startled over the revelations, immediately began raising questions.
Madam Minister, what steps would you take to ensure that you avoid this kind of ugly situation so that we'll go back to the normal way of implementing budget from January to December 31st?
When you say you are going to roll over 70%, the elephant leg will be rolled over. And you insist at the same time that we are not going to run two budgets. Is it not just playing with words?
Given the number of questions, the chairman interrupts, asking what appeared to be a summary.
The question we should ask the Honorable Minister or the Accountant General or the man behind the revenue is there money to pay? If there is money to pay, what are the hiccups?
And as for 2025, the funding for the 30% of the 2025 MDA's budget that has been warranted, the funding is sitting there. Mass mobilization of savings, and that is the discussion now that His Excellency Mr. President is considering a plan, public-private partnership to mobilize mass savings across the board.
The Accountant General is also quizzed about payment for local contractors.
We started the payment around Monday last week, and even as at yesterday, they were still bringing their list. The first batch and the second batch that were given to us, we have cleared those ones. We've gone more than 80% on their own. Indigenous contractors.
The committee also directed the FIRS to raise its 2026 revenue projection from 31 trillion naira to 35 trillion naira. In the meantime, the Senate Committee on Finance has also announced, as part of a resolution, to immediately set up a three-man committee to work with the President Tinubu's economic team to fast-track the release of payments to local contractors. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Keep politics honorable and let governance focus on results. Well, these are words of President Bola Tinubu at the public presentation of a book in honor of the former president Muhammadu Buhari, which is held in Abuja. According to the president, true nation building must, however, involve not just the leaders, but the entire citizens. President Tinubu praised the legacies of late President Buhari in areas of security and social justice, describing him as a man of humility and vision. Our State House correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
He also has some adjectives for the president.
President Bola Tinubu, alongside his spouse, Senator Luremi, President of the Gambia, Mr. Adama Barrow, wife of the Vice President, governors from across the 36 states of the Federation, traditional rulers, and lawmakers joined family members of the immediate former President Muhammadu Buhari for presentation of the book written in his honor.
That said, the unveiling of the book.
Before his remarks, President Tinubu leads guests to unveil the book. Titled From Soldier to Statesman, The Legacy of Muhammadu Buhari, the book, authored by a former aide of the late president, x-rays some events that occurred during his government, including the intrigues of power play between his family and those referred to as the cabal.
What was the role of the cabal in shaping the Buhari presidency? Why did they fight his family to a standstill? The answer is in the book. What was the plan of the cabal for the APC presidential primaries before it was thwarted just a few hours before the event? By the way, Mr. President, the cabal wanted somebody else to win that primary. The details are in the book. How was the CBN captured by the cabal? The answer is in the book. Was Buhari's signature forged? Was there a signature stamp? Did somebody assign his signature? The answer is in the book.
Guests, including the former Director General of the Department of State Services, Mr. Yusuf Bichi, recalled their experiences with the former president.
He was an honest man, a simple man. He cared about people. He was a great soldier and a perfect gentleman. He can be funny and light-hearted.
President Buhari has never and will never, ever ask anybody to rig an election for him. When he assigned us to investigate the petition against the then CBN governor, I went back to him and said, sir, in the course of this investigation, I will step on toes. Then he looked at me adjusted his seat and asked me, have I ever asked you or interfered with their job? I said, never, never, sir. You have not. He said, okay, go. Even if it is Yusuf, you find one thing, deal with him.
The president reflects on his political alliance with his predecessor and some of the pillars of his legacy, emphasizing the need for effective leadership and patriotic citizenship.
Our political journey together taught me that cooperation across differences is not weakness, it is wisdom. Nation building demands that we compete passionately and we compete dispassionately. Govern responsibly. President Muhammadu Buhari understood that the contest ends when the oath begins. In his memory, let us keep our politics honorable and our governance focused on results. Nigeria is greater than any tribe, language, faith, or political party.
The 606-page book, From Soldier to Statesman, The Legacy of Muhammadu Buhari, is divided into 5 parts with 22 chapters. Former President Muhammadu Buhari meant different things for different people. For some, he was a man of integrity, a man who played politics without rancor. But for others, his administration remains one that many Nigerians cannot forget in a hurry. But the author of this book believes that many of the questions that need to be answered are right in here, including the cause of the death of former President Muhammadu Buhari. From the banquet hall of the State House, Abuja, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, FCT High Court to rule December 18 on former Labour Minister Chris Ngige's bail application. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Aliko Dangote raises concerns over sabotage in Nigeria's downstream oil sector as Rep summoned Dangote and NMDPRA chief ordering a ceasefire. President Tinubu praises late President Muhammadu Buhari as a model of discipline, integrity and public service during the launch of his official biography in Abuja. Federal government admits major revenue shortfalls in the 2024-2025 budgets, forcing nearly 70% of planned spending to roll over into 2026. And Nick Reiner, son of director Bob Reiner, arrested after the deaths of his parents, Rob and Michelle, in Los Angeles. Vice President Kashim Shettima says that the Bola Tinubu administration is laser-focused on bringing back Nigeria's respected place in Africa and in the world by modernizing the armed forces. This means better training, updated equipment, and improved capacity to take on today's ever-changing security threats. The Vice President, who delivered the President's address at the 25th Chief of Army Staff Conference, an annual event that focuses on the current terrorism landscape. The event drew an array of current and former service chiefs alongside Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos and other prominent personalities. Our correspondent Chris Illems reports.
The 25th Chief of Army Staff Conference kicks off at the Naval Hall at Bati Barracks in Lagos. As guests, including Vice President Kashim Shettima, Governor Sanwo-Olu, Defense Minister Lieutenant General Christopher Musa, top brass, military veterans and National Assembly members arrive.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Waheed Shaibu, welcomes the guest and gives a nod to the Tinubu administration's successes in tackling insecurity. He reiterates the Army's commitment to its constitutional duty.
Our forces will continue to support legitimate efforts aimed at sustaining democracy within our sub-region and strengthening cooperation with friendly nations and allies. Most recently, following the directive of Mr. President, our military contributed to regional initiatives that help safeguard the democratic elected government of a friendly nation of the Benin Republic.
This commitment is corroborated by the Defense Minister, who stresses a simple but vital point that no single military service can win alone. He says cooperation is key.
While security challenges persist, it's evident that the operational capacity of terrorist groups, bandits and other criminal elements has been significantly degraded across multiple theaters. These gains reflect the courage of our troops, improved planning and execution, and the growing impacts of coordinated operations conducted within a joint and multi-agency framework.
Host Governor Sanwo-Olu follows assuring the military of his administration's unwavering support.
It is therefore heartwarming to see increasing emphasis on joint training, intelligence sharing, and a coordinated response among security agencies. Such collaboration is essential, and we will continue to support you at all fronts and at all levels.
A sober moment occurs as the Vice President unveils A Life of Service, a book dedicated to the 23rd Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, who died in service. In his remarks, the Vice President also highlights recent contribution by the federal government to boost the Nigerian Army's operational capacity.
Following the induction of helicopters into the Nigerian Army aviation and the training of pilots, we have advanced the procurement of additional mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, armored vehicles, and patrol vehicles. We have also refurbished over 100 armored fighting vehicles, now returned to active service. These efforts reflect our clear commitment to strengthening the Nigerian Army's operational readiness.
The ceremony wraps up with other activities, including the payment of disbursement of the Nigerian Army Personnel Accident Insurance Scheme, as well as awards of vehicles to deserving Army warrant officers for their meritorious service. In present-day security environment, the need for cooperation and intelligence sharing cannot be overemphasized, and conferences such as this provides the opportunity for men and officers of the military to explore that landscape, and the country is expected to be better for that at the end. From the Nebo Hall at the Abati Barracks here in Lagos, Chris Elems, Channels Television News.
Let's head to the courts now, where Justice Mariam Hassan of the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Gwarinpa, Abuja, will on December the 18th rule on the bail application of the former Minister of Labour and Employment, Mr. Chris Ngige. Mr. Ngige will still be remanded at the Kuje Correctional Centre till the date when his bail application will be decided. Justice Hassan issued the order shortly after taking arguments for and against the bail request of the former minister. His counsel, Patrick Ikweto, pleaded with the judge to admit the former minister to bail on various reasons, but mainly on health grounds. He also added that Mr. Ngige was not a flight risk and does not have the capacity to leave the country at this period since his international passport is missing. He submitted that the former minister will not jump bail or interfere with witnesses if admitted to bail. However, the counsel to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Silvanus Tahir, vehemently opposed the bail request, insisting that Mr. Ngige was a flight risk. He told the judge that the defendant was granted administrative bail by the EFCC and allowed to travel abroad for medical care, but never reported back to the EFCC. They say besides, he said the international passport released to him to facilitate the abroad trip was never returned till date. The senior lawyer argued that it was when Mr. Ngige was rearrested that he came up with a purported claim that he lost his passport, insisting that the claims of passport loss was an afterthought and should not be believed by the court. Mr. Tahir asked the court to dismiss the bail request for being frivolous. And after those submissions, Justice Hassan fixed December the 18th to deliver ruling in the bail request. Let's continue the news at 10 now, but this time in our Abuja studios where Terry Ikumi is standing by to bring us more. Over to you, Terry.
Well, many thanks, Anne. Now, the Supreme Court has upheld the power of the president to declare a state of emergency in any state to prevent a breakdown of law and order or degeneration into a state of chaos or anarchy. In a split decision of 6-1, the Apex Court held that the president, during an emergency, can suspend elected officials, but that such suspension of elected officials must be within a limited period. In the lead majority judgment, Justice Mohammed Idris held that Section 305 of the Constitution empowers the president to deploy extraordinary measures to restore normalcy where emergency rule is declared. Justice Idris noted that Section 305 is not specific on the nature of the extraordinary measures, thereby granting the president the discretion on how to go about it. The judgment was on the suit filed by the Adamawa state government and 10 other People's Democratic Party-led states challenging the propriety of the state of emergency declared by President Bola Tinubu in Rivers State, during which elected state officials were suspended for 6 months. Justice Idris, in the earlier part of the judgment, upheld the preliminary objections raised by the two defendants against the competence of the suit. In upholding the objections raised by the Attorney General of the Federation and the National Assembly, Justice Idris held that the plaintiffs, the 11 PDP states, failed to establish any cause of action capable of activating the original jurisdiction of the Apex Court. He struck out the suit for want of jurisdiction and proceeded to also determine the case on the merit and dismissed it. However, Justice Obando Bunya dissented and held that the case succeeded in part. Among others, Justice Obunya held that although the president could declare a state of emergency, the president cannot use such power as a tool to suspend elected state officials, including governors, deputy governors, and members of parliament. Now, the coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Pate, has warned senior officials of the ministry and its agencies that leadership changes are imminent in a few areas where key performance indicators have not been met. Speaking at the ministerial debrief after the recently concluded 43rd Expert Review Committee meetings on polio and routine immunization, Professor Pate reaffirmed President Bola Tinubu's unwavering political will toward polio eradication and the broader transformation of Nigeria's health sector. The minister, who highlighted reduction in cases and improvement in states such as Kano and Katsina as encouraging signs of progress, also warned that the virus remains ahead in some states, stressing the importance of strong surveillance, real-time data, preparedness, and high-quality vaccination rounds.
The fact that we have made progress is good, but it's not enough if we're to deal with this by end of 2026, or it has global implications, it has regional implications, and it has implications for us. So what does it mean? It means we have to go all out to finish this. In the last couple of weeks, I've asked the ED, and I fully support him in shaking things up on the EOC, because from where I sit, if you put folks together and the result is not effort that we're rewarding results. And if there are no results, then we change people and bring those who can be able to deliver. And I told him, even if it means every month changing people, the ED has my support to change anyone that is on the path of our progress to achieve this.
The ERC notes that Nigeria did not interrupt the circulating variant of poliovirus type 2 in 2025, despite significant efforts. The ERC also appreciates the 35% reduction in circulating variant of poliovirus type 2 detections from 2024, and use this as an opportunity to drive interruption in 2026, despite difficult operating conditions.
Still ahead on the news at 10, headline inflation rate moderates to 14.45% in November 2025 from the 16.05% recorded in October 2025. That's on Business News. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Still watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. Students have been urged to get their permanent voter cards in order to give themselves a voice as the 2027 election year approaches. This was the central message during the launch of the project's New Nigeria at the University of Port Harcourt during which the convener urged students and youths across the country to get their PVCs and give themselves a fighting chance and achieve inclusive governance. Our correspondent Charles Oporum reports.
It's a packed hall at the University of Port Harcourt as the Foundation for Citizens Engagement rolls out Project New Nigeria, an initiative to raise awareness about PVC collection among students and youths in the state. Among dignitaries in attendance are the Vice-Chancellor, the university's Pro-Chancellor, and ace comedian Sabinus. The convener, Samuel Ngige, explains the thinking behind the Project New Nigeria.
We are the largest, most energetic, most creative generation this nation has ever produced. But for far too long, we have been left behind, ignored, under-supported, and underrepresented. Project New Nigeria was created to change that. Our mission is simple but bold: to support the Nigerian students, to help young students understand their power, to build a nation that refuses to accept the old way of doing things. And this is why we chose the name, the Project New Nigeria.
There are goodwill messages from the university dons, while Sabinus pays fees for 4 lucky students.
When Samuel and his team came to me to tell me about this program, of course, I first look at Samuel and his team. They're very young people. You know, before when you hear of young people, the next thing that will come to their mind is, oh, young people want to do yahoo yahoo, young people want to do drugs, young people want to do this. But Samuel and his team has told me that young people can come together and do something amazing here.
I say, what game do you want to play? They say it's not game. They want to sensitize students towards voter registration, civic responsibility, and they will add it by empowering students that they were prepared to give 200 scholarships. They were also prepared to support it with laptops.
I would like you guys to support the Project New Nigeria and the voter sensitization, because with this we can have our voice to speak out when it comes to the electoral aspects of this country.
Speaking on the sidelines of the event, the SUG president appreciates the initiative and commends the conveners.
I'm very, very happy. I will tell you for free, because I think this is the very first time something like this is coming down to the University of Port Harcourt. And I also say thank you to Mr. Samuel for this, because normally students, we are going to be hearing of scholarship, but we have not seen it. But at least today, you're saying that he did it. He promised and he fulfilled it. So this is the very first time something like this happening, and I'm very happy.
A check for the sum of 40 million was presented to the school as scholarship money for 200 students, while 20 others got iPads to help with their education. Charles Oporum, Channels Television News.
The Beer Sectoral Group, BSG, of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, in partnership with the Federal Road Safety Corps, has officially flagged off the 6th edition of its annual Don't Drink and Drive's DDD campaign. The partners say this campaign is to reinforce their commitment to promoting responsible drinking and safer roads across Nigeria.
The 2025 campaign brings together key stakeholders, including representatives from the Beer Sectoral Group BSG and the Federal Road Safety Corps FRSC under one roof to reinforce a shared commitment to public safety.
As we are all aware, the embalmment is a season marked by increased travels, high traffic volumes, and attendant rise in road traffic crash injuries and fatalities. I wish to express my profound appreciation to our esteemed stakeholders, the Beer Sectoral Group in this case, for partnering with the Federal Safety Corps in this life-saving campaign. Your continued corporate social responsibility effort towards promoting safety on our roads are deeply commendable and align perfectly with our mission of creating safer motoring environment across Nigeria.
The initiative is jointly driven by member companies of the BSG, who continue to demonstrate unified industry leadership in advancing responsible alcohol consumption.
I really
now. And we have even expanded the dimension of that collaboration. So it's not just an Ember Month affair.
It is moral, it is not legal for you to be combining alcohol and driving, or indeed alcohol and operating any machinery for that matter.
The campaign is driven by BSG member companies, including Guinness Nigeria PLC and Nigerian brewers, demonstrating unified industry leadership and their ongoing collaboration with the FRSC.
We cannot do it alone, but I think we already have a strong platform, right, and a rallying point, which is the Federal Road Safety Corps, right, and this is one platform that we do not take for granted, and we're also encouraging others within the entire and the wider ecosystem to join us, the media, all our stakeholders.
So the message will persist, the message will be continuous, the message will go into our future. That's the truth. Because it's a habit that has become ingrained in the lovers of our products.
For as long as we're in business and we have the responsibility to ensure that our consumers and the general public are not, at a disadvantage, or they're not at risk on account of some people who are abusing some of these products, we have to continue doing this, and we will continue doing it.
Through this partnership, the group aims to deepen public awareness, especially during festive seasons, urging Nigerians to make responsible choices and avoid driving under the influence of alcohol, reinforcing safety on the nation's roads.
Well, it's a wrap from the nation's capital. Back to Anne in Lagos.
Thank you, Terry. And next on the news at 10, outside our shores, Nick Reiner, son of director Rob Reiner, arrested after the death of his parents, Rob and Michelle, in Los Angeles. That's on the foreign scene. Please join us again.
The details.
Hello, welcome to the Market Close. It's the opening session of the final food trading week of 2025, and investors are already striking a cautious tone as the year draws to a close. And we see the All-Share Index closing flat today, with market activity reflecting, selective positioning rather than a broad-based buying, with volume and value of trades down. We see the market cap 95 trillion. For the sectors that we track now, banking stocks stood out as a lone bright spot, recording modest gains, while other sectors closed in the red. 0.89% jump there for the banking counter today. Top trades on the trading floor. Activity was dominated by financial services stocks, with FCMB, Axis Core among the most actively traded names, as investors focused on liquidity and value plays today. Away from the equities, fresh data offered some relief. Nigeria's inflation cooled in November, with figures from the National Bureau of Statistics showing headline inflation easing by 160 basis points to 14.45% year-on-year, down from 16.05% in October, a development that could shape market expectations going into the year's end. That's how the market closed today, cautious, data-driven, and firmly focused on what the final stretch of 2025 may still deliver.
And that's business. Is back to Anne for more on the news at 10.
Thank you, Will. Let's now join Simon Puser with more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. 2 gunmen who killed 15 people at Bondi Beach in Sydney have been named in local media as Sajid Akram and his son Naveed. Police earlier confirmed the gunmen were father and son. The older man died at the scene. His son, pictured during the attacks, is in a critical condition. The shootings targeted Jewish people attending a Hanukkah event. The victims include a 10-year-old girl, a British-born rabbi, a retired police officer and a Holocaust survivor. The father of bystander Ahmed Al-Ahmed, who has been described as a hero as he was filmed wrestling the gun off an attacker, said he was driven by conscience and humanity. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says the attackers were not part of a terror cell, but clearly were motivated by extremist ideology.
We are satisfied that we have 6 firearms from the scene yesterday, but also as a result of the search run at the Campsie address. Ballistics and forensic investigation will determine this morning that those 6 firearms are the 6 that were licensed to that man, but also that they were used in the offence yesterday.
Thank you to innocent bystanders and civilians who stood up, risked their own lives to save other people's lives. This is a terrible, wanton act of destructive violence, but there are still amazing people that we have in Australia, and they showed their true colours last night.
What we saw yesterday was an act of pure evil, an act of anti-Semitism, an act of terrorism on our shores in an iconic Australian location, Bondi Beach, that is associated with joy, associated with families gathering, associated with celebrations.
Flash floods have killed at least 37 people in Morocco's coastal Safi region, according to state-owned television. Cars and mounds of rubbish were seen sweeping through the main port city of Safi after torrential rain hit on Sunday. Dozens of people have been receiving treatment in hospital for their injuries, and at least 70 homes have been inundated in the old city centre. Moroccan authorities say search and rescue missions are still underway. Figures from Hollywood and US politics have paid tribute and expressed shock after the acclaimed director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were found dead in their Los Angeles home. Police launched a homicide investigation after saying a 78-year-old man and 68-year-old woman were pronounced dead at a house in an upmarket neighborhood of LA on Sunday. Reiner is known for directing classic films in a variety of genres, including When Harry Met Sally, This Is Spinal Tap, Stand By Me, Misery and A Few Good Men. He was also known for championing liberal causes and democratic politics. Hong Kong pro-democracy campaigner and media tycoon Jimmy Lai has been found guilty of colluding with foreign forces under the city's controversial national security law. The 78-year-old UK citizen, who has been in jail since December 2020, pleaded not guilty. He faces life in prison and is expected to be sentenced early next year. The court ruled Lai used his now defunct Apple Daily newspaper as part of a wider effort to lobby foreign governments to impose sanctions on Hong Kong and China. Rights groups have called it a cruel judicial farce. Chile has elected the far-right-wing Jose Antonio Cast to be its next president after an election campaign that was dominated by themes of security, immigration and crime. Cast beat the governing left-wing coalition candidate Ginette Yara decisively with more than 58% of the vote in his third attempt at running for president. It marks the biggest shift to the right since the end of Chile's military dictatorship in 1990. Cast has openly praised Chile's former right-wing dictator Augusto Pinochet. And football superstar Lionel Messi has wrapped up his 3-day tour in India after a chaotic opening in Kolkata. On Monday, thousands of fans gathered in Delhi Stadium to get a glimpse of the Argentina and Inter Miami forward. It was a much more celebratory atmosphere than on Saturday when angry fans vandalised a Kolkata stadium because they only got to see a brief appearance of the former Barcelona star. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. The Super Eagles of Nigeria will face Pharaohs of Egypt at the Cairo Stadium on Tuesday in a friendly match in the preparation for the Africa Cup of Nations. The Africa Cup of Nations kicks off on Sunday in Morocco. The number of Super Eagles players in camp has risen to 23 with the arrival of Alex Iwobi, Calvin Bassey, Frank Onyeka and Paul Onachu. That's where we leave it on Sports News, and is back just now with the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Olumide. And the main news again. Aliko Dangote has raised concerns over sabotage in Nigeria's downstream oil sector as reps have summoned Dangote and NMDPRA chief, ordering a ceasefire. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. Good night. Stay safe.